outdated and thus not utilised. Additionally, offering a mechanism for feedback encourages buy-in and ownership of the test processes. Another pitfall post-implementation is that the process compliances must be audited. This will highlight if people are not utilising the process. A post-implementation audit framework will be essential for success. As previously stated, normally if the bulk of resources are not using a given process, it is often because the process does not fit with the requirements of the organisation. In these cases, the results of non-compliance can lead to more test process review improvements. Another major pitfall is that many organisations fail to continue test training after the initial TPI-led training. This particular problem seems to be with new staff. If you use a high number of contract staff or recruit high levels of permanent staff without basic training or without induction into test processes, the result is that people are not aware of the processes and use their own, diluting the current test process and the potential ROI. You need to put training in place or on-the-job training to mitigate this risk. So how do we ensure that they also implement TPI successfully? It is actually fairly straightforward to implement TPI if you apply normal project standards. The key is to understand what you are delivering, i.e. agreeing the recommendations. It is also worthwhile putting some thought into how you are going to implement changes and what changes you will implement first. It is unlikely you want to implement a big bang approach. A phased approach is normally the best solution. If you are trying to implement a phased approach, it is important that stakeholders see some return of investment fairly quickly. Try implementing the tactical changes such as those that will give your organisation improvement quickly and strategic improvements that offer the most ROI. You will also need to build in a project plan detailing all tasks, resources and budget. This plan will need to be baselined and a change control process put in place. Again, normal project standards apply. Before implementing any changes, it is important to get the method for capturing ROI metrics in place, and it is also important to get any support material or processes in place to ensure a smooth transition. In most cases, it is also worth piloting your changes. This will enable you to decide if you need to make changes to the process and if you've received the estimated ROI back. This will give you the management information to decide if you should roll out the changes further or not. When rolling out the process, it is also important to roll out both the process and a feedback mechanism for improvement. The likelihood is there will be some teething problems, so it is important that you address those quickly so users don't get frustrated. Having spent considerable effort detailing the method of capturing ROI metrics, the next step is to collate and publish that information. This is the information that will be key to your stakeholders and budget holders, but it is also worth ensuring it is made available to those involved in the process. Another post-implementation task is to ensure that there is an owner for making sure the test process is maintained. I have already stated that before this is where most organisations tend to fail. After investing sometimes large sums of money in a TPR and TPI, they are just not maintained. New staff are not trained and resources revert back to doing it their own way. Finally, it is also important to understand how much you have moved on, and undertaking follow-up TPRs on a regular basis will allow you to do that. There may be a point where the key objective is to assess if you are maintaining your last baseline rather than improving. That's fine, but it's a point that your organisation may get to. So now that you know how to avoid some of the pitfalls, how do you convince the boss to move forward with TPI? Firstly, your boss is likely to have set goals or objectives that he needs to meet. For instance, he is likely to have responsibility for increasing the quality of applications in production by 10% or reduce test time by 20%. Understand these and build them into any proposal you put forward. Focus on the return of investment he can achieve. Give example. There's lots of information available on the net. Money talks. You need to remember you can concentrate on a small area of your test process. You don't need to review everything, but make sure you choose an area that is likely to provide a good ROI, as this could be your stepping stone to doing wider TPI in future. Use your TPR to build a business case for TPI, but remember to do so, you need to identify the expected ROI for as many recommendations as possible. Finally, you know your organisation and boss better than me, so feel free to add anything else that you think will help. So in summary, I have detailed the 10 key steps that I believe you need to get right to achieve success. Firstly, don't view the TPR and TPI as separate exercises. Ensure the stakeholders are aware that any investment in the TPR will require further investment to implement those changes. You must understand your business and test objectives before doing the TPR, making sure where possible recommendations align to those objectives so that it's easier to achieve buy-in and investment of the agreed recommendations. Don't view the TPR as an audit. This will result in defensive behaviour from all those involved and limit the benefit you get out of it. Additionally, remember to address strengths as well as weaknesses and estimate the ROI that you are likely to achieve from the implementation of the recommendations. Get the right people involved in the TPR. Remember, it shouldn't just be the testing resources. You need the input of the business and the development teams, among others. TPI must be run as a programme of change. It needs to be planned and monitored and have a budget and resources defined, including someone with overall responsibility for delivery if it is to succeed. You must be able to measure the success of improvements, so invest the time in getting the metrics for measuring ROI set up. Make sure you roll out any required supporting processes before you pilot the change. For example, do you need training material or guidelines for use? Pilot your changes. This allows any fine-tuning required before you roll out the processes to the rest of your organisation. Finally, once implemented, many organisations believe that is the end of TPI. This is the most costly mistake that organisations make. You wouldn't invest in a new house and let it go to rack and ruin, so why do you do the same when it comes to investing in a test process? To ensure upkeep of the test improvement changes, there will need to be some ownership of the new test process. Without this, the TPI will be deemed as a failure within months of implementation. However, ensuring ownership will increase the likelihood of success. Finally, TPRs are for life, not just Christmas. Not only should you redo the TPR to see how much you have improved against the original baseline, but it will also highlight the next set of priority tasks. The duration between TPR is up to you, but every 6 to 12 months is fairly standard. Ladies and gentlemen, that is all from me today. Thank you for your time. I sincerely hope it was useful. Please forward any queries you have to marketing@applabs.com.